Our Wisdom channel. I just want to speak on a quick subject, being that today is Wednesday, also known as Ash Wednesday, which is supposed to mark the first day of Lent. And for those of you who don't know, a lot of y'all who may be Christians, y'all might be practicing it yourself. For those of you who don't know, Lent is basically somewhat of a holiday, so to speak, or a tradition or a practice where you basically fast, not so much for food or from water, but you give something up for those 40 days prior to the culmination of Easter, which is known in Christianity as the resurrection of, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, so to speak, on that day. So we go through that, and the reason why I made this video is with a lot of practices, holidays, and things within Christianity. A lot of these have a pagan roots and a pagan basis to it, and this is just another example of one of them. So, first I want to talk about the whole 40-day thing. With the 40 days, with it being like I said, you're giving up something, either fasting, give up some sin or vice for this time being up until that point. Now that 40 days, as we see in a lot of scripture, it has a big significance, that being 40 days Moses was up on Mount Sinai, Jesus fasting for 40 days in the desert before going on his ministry. You got 40 days with Noah in the ark when it rained, and there's 40 being the 40 years spent in the wilderness with Moses. I'm pretty sure there's several others that I'm missing right now, but that's just to give you an example. So this 40 days has a significance, and it's drawn upon in this fact of Lent, how that goes. So when we talk about this stuff, a lot of things that is practiced now is innovation, and it was brought about, as I've said in some of my other videos, through the Council of Nicea. And I know y'all have probably been beat over the head with this whole Council of Nicea, but this is one of those things where the Council of Nicea, the purpose of it was to make Christianity palatable to Romans and the Greeks. And if you know your history about Romans and Greeks, they were polytheistic societies where they worship many gods. And anthropomorphism, ran rampant within that, believing that the gods came to earth and had sex with, human beings, and they assign human qualities to gods, so to speak. And a lot of this comes about, which is another video that I've been meaning to do. But like I said, the Council of Nicea made things palatable to these people, where it would have been easier for Romans to accept Christianity and the Greeks to accept Christianity by incorporating some of their own beliefs into it. So this is no different with with Lent. Now, being that these were pagans, the religion has a pagan basis. This was not observed by Lent was not observed by Jesus Christ or the first century church or any of the apostles. It just wasn't. Jesus observed Passover like all the other Jews did. Lent, like I said, is deeply rooted in paganism, just like Easter is, which is a whole different video as well. The origin of Lent is a Latin Anglo-Saxon word, basically called Lencten, which means spring. So if you see where I'm going here, obviously with Easter meaning spring and things of that nature, but Lent is directly taken, obviously, from that. We got that Anglo-Saxon word, but it's directly taken from mystic ancient Babylon, with Babylonian gods, and that Babylonian god in particular is Tammuz. And Tammuz there was a festival way back when, and Tammuz was seen as the somewhat of a anti-Messiah, antichrist type figure, and part of this whole thing with Lent was a celebration commemorating his death and resurrection, and being that he's a false Messiah in the Babylonian tradition. So part of this tradition, Lent would take place similar 40 days before this feast of his, which was in June, which is still, springtime up until the middle of June, which would be summertime, which the Lent for him would be 40 days. And the part of this tradition of worshiping him was women would be weeping and rejoicing during these 40 days, which was custom and part of the worship. Now, this is also in Scripture as well, as far as Tammuz being mentioned in the Old Testament, in Ezekiel, and Ezekiel mentions it in a form of prophecy that he had seen these women weeping for Tammuz, and the fact that they're weeping for this deity who's directly goes against the first commandment, was an abomination in the eyes of God. And it says this in Scripture as well, that this abomination of these women actually weeping. So like I said, this happened during these 40 days of Lent prior to the actual feast, which was commemorating his death and resurrection, so to speak. So this abomination obviously is idolatry, and we see that all throughout the Old Testament. Like I said, that goes back to Noah, with the people during Noah's time worshiping idols, during Abraham's time worshiping idols, during Moses, obviously you know about that, with the Hebrews creating the golden calf. So idolatry is a constant theme, and it obviously appears a lot in these pagan traditions, which is no different. Even in Christianity, there's a lot of idolatry that goes on within that. So ironically, during the whole Council of Nicea, being that it was spring, this was made to replace Passover as well. So as this becoming a replacement, Lent becoming a replacement for Passover, it was brought into spring as well as Easter. Now, what's the connection? You'll see how all this is connected. Is, as I said, Tammuz was a Babylonian god. Easter, which is, like I said, is another video before. Easter is based upon the Babylonian god Ishtar. So with that being said, the Babylonian goddess Ishtar basically was the nurse of Tammuz, so to speak. So there's a correlation between, Tammuz's resurrection, Ishtar being his actual nurse, and a fertility goddess. And as we see Ishtar being the fertility goddess, we have the connection with Easter, as we see nowadays with the Easter eggs, and Easter eggs being a sign of the chicken coming from the egg, being hatched, starting anew. And the same thing with rabbits being a sense of sexuality and vitality, so to speak, with this whole rabbit thing. So you ask, what does rabbits and eggs have to do with Jesus? And Ishtar being the fertility goddess, we obviously know that when the winter comes, everything dies. So there's a reset, or bringing about a new balance with the coming of Easter, Ishtar, so to speak. So all of this is connected, but at the end of the day, we must know what it is that we're actually what's part of our worship. There's nothing wrong with fasting. Fasting is great. Fasting is prescribed by God. abstaining from sin is prescribed by God. But when you assign it to something like this that has pagan roots and origins, that's completely something different. It's spoken of in scripture. We're warned in scripture to not follow trends and innovations, which basically the reason why that is because it'll lead you to the path of idolatry by following these things. So I just wanted to make this video. I know today is we got about 6 weeks to go before Easter. Just want to give y'all food for thought, to think about it. Those of you who stick, hold on tight to that rope of Easter. Good Friday, the day of resurrection. The Sabbath day, which was originally Saturday, but began on Friday evening. A lot of these things we should be educated on, and to know what's actually going on. If Good Friday, Jesus died or was executed on Good Friday, afternoon, whatever time, and Friday evening is actually the Sabbath day, according to Jewish custom, and it ends on Saturday, but he was resurrected on a Sunday, which doesn't even make it 3 days. So between Friday and Sunday, that's not 3 days. So just other food for thought. Make sure you guys have, as long as you have the right intentions in it, you shouldn't have to wait till this time to do these things. And if you can quit one bad habit or vice temporarily for these 40 days, you should also be able to do it for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? Just food for thought. So that's all I have to say. I like to hear what y'all got to say. Feel free to comment, like, share, subscribe as well. Click on the bell, if you've already subscribed, so you get notifications whenever I drop or release a new video. Follow me on social media. Check out my books on Amazon. The link is in the description. Throw a couple coins in the well of wisdom as well if you like the content. The link is in the description as well for donations. And that's pretty much all I got. And y'all remember, anything lost can be found again except for time wasted. Peace.